Have you ever ordered food delivery in the dead of night? At 3 a.m. I was starving. Home alone, I ordered takeout. For safety, I added a note to the order. Not home yet. Just leave it at the door and take a photo when it arrives. Half an hour later, the rider messaged me as promised. Miss, your food is on the doormat. Please grab it soon. A photo came along with it. The photo showed the food placed at my doorstep. To avoid running into the rider, I deliberately waited a few minutes before getting up to fetch it. 1 second before opening the door, I glanced down at my phone screen. The rider was 0 meters away. I was startled. My hand, already on the doorknob, instinctively pulled back. After refreshing several times, I noticed the rider's location hadn't moved at all. Cold sweat began forming on my back. Anyone who orders food often knows. Generally, after delivering the food to the designated spot, riders tap confirm delivery immediately and head to the next order. They do this to avoid fines for being late. Once the order is completed, customers can no longer see the rider's location. However, sometimes a careless rider might forget the step, like right now. Such a small action could expose his location. In other words, this rider was still outside my door. I held my breath and tremblingly peered through the peephole. Complete darkness. Not a single ray of light outside. I couldn't see anything. I nervously swallowed. Perhaps due to poor soundproofing, the motion sensor light in our hallway was very sensitive. Usually, when I played short videos loudly in the living room, it would automatically turn on. If the rider were really hiding by my door, he'd have made some noise. Since the sensor light hadn't activated, there was probably no one outside. Staring at the dark hallway, I reassured myself I was overthinking it. After waiting a few more minutes, still no one outside. I waited a bit longer. This was an older neighborhood. Most residents had moved away. Each building only had a few scattered households, mostly elderly people with regular routines who went to bed early. My only neighbor on this floor had also left days ago for a long trip. It was the middle of the night, and no one was in the building. It was completely silent, until my stomach growled first. I touched my flattened stomach and glanced at my phone. The rider was 0 meters from me. I frowned. Logically, the rider had no reason to keep lingering outside my door. Could it be the delivery platform's built-in GPS? That was indeed possible. I usually kept an eye on the rider's real-time location when ordering. Once, after a rider picked up my order, his location never moved, staying 3 kilometers away. I even worried he'd run into trouble. But when he knocked on my door and handed me the milk tea personally, I realized the platform's location display had just been delayed. Today was probably the same situation. Taking a deep breath, I slowly opened the door. The hallway was still dead quiet. The food bag was exactly where it was in the photo, placed on the open area about a meter from my front door. I looked around. After confirming there was no suspicious person, I quickly stepped out. But the second I grabbed the bag handle, a camera shutter sound suddenly came from the stairwell nearby. The flash went off, and the motion sensor lights in the hallway all turned on. Instantly, I broke out in a cold sweat. The next second, I turned and rushed back inside as fast as I could. In my haste, I even got my finger caught in the door. Once inside, I crouched down in pain. Blood was already seeping from my finger. I put my finger in my mouth and stared at the door, my fear undiminished. I was certain I hadn't misheard. Just now I put my finger there. There must have been someone. Just as my mind raced, my phone vibrated. It was a message from the rider. Miss, are you home? Along with the message came a photo. In it was my slightly panicked back view. Judging by the angle, it was definitely taken by that person in the stairwell. Seeing I hadn't replied, the rider pressed on. You said you weren't home, but how did a girl come out to grab the food? My nerves tensed up again, but alongside the fear came anger. Whether I was home or not was none of her business. She was just a rider. Why wasn't she off delivering her next order instead of pestering me here? But I didn't want to go back out. I wasn't ready to. I could only make up a lie to brush her off. I'm not home. But my roommate was. She brought it in for me. I thought that would get rid of the rider. But she wouldn't let it go. Your roommate? Her back view looks pretty good. Can you introduce us? I happen to meet my girlfriend. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her. Seeing this message, my scalp tingled. No wonder she kept hanging around. So she had ulterior motives. I'd heard some riders hit on female customers, even harass them. Never thought I'd encounter this today. Thinking of her lurking in the dark so long, holding up her phone to capture my embarrassing moment, I felt sick. I knew rejection was useless for someone like her. She might even think I was playing hard to get, to tease her, so I blocked her directly, but that meant I couldn't check her location on the delivery app anymore. Helpless, I waited quietly for a while. Figuring she'd probably left, I gathered my courage and approached the door again, holding my breath. Staring intently through the peephole, I felt my heart racing and sweat dripping from my forehead. I stayed pressed against the door observing for several minutes without spotting anyone. Just as I was about to relax, a hideous face suddenly appeared in my sight. The face grinned eerily, its eye sockets looked nearly torn apart, deep and dark. It seemed skin and bones. I shuddered in fright and stumbled back. Landing on the floor, I gasped for air. After calming down a bit, I started thinking about what to do next. I knew she was only harassing me at most, not causing real harm. If I called the police, she could just claim she liked me and get off with a verbal warning. After mulling it over, I called Uncle Zhao, the security guard. Unlike most elderly guards, he was under 40. I heard he'd been laid off from a big tech company a few years back and took this job. Luckily, his past income was decent, and he was good at stock trading, so had achieved financial freedom long ago. Working as a guard now was just to pass the time. From what I knew, Uncle Zhao worked out regularly, and he was naturally tall, broad-shouldered, and sturdy. More importantly, he was always willing to help a real hero in our neighborhood. Sure enough, after hearing our story, Uncle Zhao agreed without hesitation. No problem, I'll go check your hallway. If that punk's still there, I'll chase him off. I'd like to see who dares to cause trouble in my building. I was deeply grateful for his kindness. From what I'd seen through the peephole, I could tell the rider was very thin. Someone like that shouldn't be a match for Uncle Zhao, but to be safe, I still advised, Uncle Zhao, bring something for self-defense. Even just a stick. Hearing this, Uncle Zhao laughed heartily. With this build of mine, what's there to worry about? I've seen plenty of delivery riders. They're all weaklings. I can knock them down with one punch. Don't be scared, miss. I'm heading over now. After hanging up, I felt a bit relieved. Now I just had to wait for Uncle Zhao to drive that rider away. Bullies always fear the tough. That rider only acted so boldly because she knew a woman lived here. Once she saw Uncle Zhao's skills, she wouldn't dare come back. I waited anxiously at home. Just then, footsteps echoed from the hallway, heavy ones, clearly someone with weight. My heart lifted. It was Uncle Zhao. I pressed myself against the door, not wanting to miss a sound. Uncle Zhao got closer and closer to my floor. Just as the sound reached my level, suddenly, the steady footsteps turned chaotic. Then came a commotion from the stairwell, like two people scuffling. My heart leaped into my throat. I wanted to go out, but reason stopped me. Against an adult male, I had no fighting ability. Rushing out would only add to Uncle Zhao's troubles. With that thought, I stopped. The sounds lasted less than a minute before suddenly going silent. The whole building fell into dead quiet again. My heart pounded. But I waited a long time, and no more sounds came from outside. What happened to the rider? Had Uncle Zhao already driven her off? Time ticked by, and I grew more anxious. Just as I waited in silence, Uncle Zhao finally called. I pressed the answer button with trembling hands. Miss, it's all clear. I ran into that rider in the stairwell. I've subdued her now. Sorry for the wait. You must have been worried. Hearing Uncle Zhao's words, my heart finally settled. The fear pressing on me finally lifted. Thanks, Brother Zhao. I'll treat you another day. No need to spend money. Brother Zhao cut me off. Well, after my scolding just now, this brat knows he was wrong. He seems quite sincere. He's someone who works hard at life. How about this? I'll bring him over. Let him apologize to you in person, and that'll be the end of it. I hesitated. Brother Zhao's words clearly meant he wanted to play peacemaker. I'd just been through a roller coaster of emotions. The last thing I wanted was to see the culprit, but Brother Zhao had just done me a huge favor. Since he'd asked, I couldn't refuse, so I reluctantly agreed. Fine, I'll wait at home for you. Not long after, Footsteps echoed in the hallway again. I was about to open the door when I realized something was wrong. Brother Zhao said he was bringing the delivery guy up with him, but I only heard one set of footsteps. And these footsteps were heavier than the ones before. Could it be? Not Brother Zhao and the delivery guy, but someone else, as doubt crept into my mind. The footsteps stopped at my door. Then came a knock. I peered through the peephole. Standing outside knocking was indeed Brother Zhao, but his expression right now didn't look good at all. His face was pressed right against the peephole, nearly filling the entire view. I couldn't see anything else in the hallway. His eyes darted left and right, seeming restless. His lips were bright red, as if coated in lipstick. The door was knocked on again. Brother Zhao seemed anxious. My lips moved, but aside from drool forming at the corner, no sound came out. My unease grew. Then my phone rang again. I picked it up and saw it was a call from Brother Zhao. Strange. Brother Zhao was right outside my door. Why wouldn't he just speak instead of calling me? Instinct told me not to open the door. I stared hard at his face, a face that once brought me comfort, now looking eerily wrong. Suddenly I spotted something off. A thin trickle of dark red was creeping from the corner of his mouth. The red at Brother Zhao's lips wasn't lipstick at all. It was abnormal. That was the color of blood. His teeth were soaked in it. The moment I realized this, I nearly screamed. Then, as if confirming my suspicion, Brother Zhao's expression shifted from agitation to sheer terror and despair. Blood streamed down from the corner of his mouth. The next second, his neck snapped like a dead branch. His head dropped straight down, and that terrified face fell backward. The sound of his head hitting the ground was piercingly loud in the night. I turned and ran like crazy, fleeing into the innermost bedroom. I leaned against the wall, my lips trembling uncontrollably. My legs could barely hold me up. I slid down and sat on the floor, tears streaming like a fountain. Brother Zhao was dead. I killed him. If I'd called the police from the very start, he wouldn't have died. Thinking this, I tremblingly pulled out my phone and dialed the police. The operator was a gentle female officer. I was so scared I could barely speak. It took me a long time to finally explain my situation and address. I understand your situation. Well, send officers to get there as soon as possible. Please don't be afraid. Stay calm. The female officer comforted me and patiently gave me instructions. After hanging up, I thought you weren't there. I couldn't calm down, but before I could recover, a loud crash came from the living room again. I cracked the door open a sliver and saw something that made my scalp tingle. A sharp axe was chopping through the door from outside. Its blade gleamed coldly. It was covered in large patches of blood. It was raised high, then brought down hard. A hole appeared in my front door. Through it, I saw half of the rider's face. Come out and play. Don't be scared. What, you don't agree? You look down on me 'cause I'm just a delivery guy? The rider's voice came through. I was scared out of my wits. I quickly shut the door. I knew it wouldn't help if he could chop through my front door. Nothing would stop him. It was only a matter of time before he broke in. The police told me not to leave the house until they arrived, but I had to adapt. If this kept up, I'd definitely die. I had to escape. What could I do? If I were on the first or second floor, I'd risk jumping out the window, but I lived on the 6th floor. Jumping off the building means certain death. I looked out the window and got an idea. I suddenly remembered an aunt in her 40s or 50s lived downstairs. Her surname was Lai. Everyone called her Aunt Lai. She loved growing plants and flowers to give them enough sunlight. She had removed the security bars from her bedroom window and built a small platform for her plants. I opened the window and leaned out. I saw the platform and felt a surge of hope. The platform was about half a square meter, enough for me to stand on, though it wasn't very sturdy. But I was light, so I could probably stand on it. The noise from the living room continued. I knew I couldn't hesitate. I steeled myself, opened the window, and climbed out. Only then did I notice it was drizzling outside. And at that moment, I realized how high the 6th floor was. If I fell, I'd die for sure. I gripped the window edge with both hands, gritted my teeth, and slowly lowered myself down. Finally, my feet touched the shelf. The moment I landed, I almost cried with joy. Standing on the platform, I opened Lai Shen's window. The next second, lightning lit up the darkness, and I saw someone alive in the room. Someone was standing right by the window. I nearly fell backward in shock. Luckily, I reacted quickly and grabbed the window frame. I breathed a sigh of relief. Young lady, why aren't you asleep in the middle of the night? Are you trying to be a thief? A voice reached my ears as the window in front of me opened. I then saw that the person in the room was none other than Lai Shen. I sighed with relief, ignored Lai Shen's shouts, and rolled into the room. What are you doing, young lady? Lai Shen yelled angrily as I climbed through the window. I quickly covered his mouth. Lai Shen, don't make a sound. I signaled him urgently with my eyes. Only when he calmed down did I let go. Lai Shen glared at me. I understood how he felt. I was up in the middle of the night, climbing onto his bedroom platform and entering his room. It looked like burglary. I briefly explained the whole situation to Lai Shen, but after hearing my story, he clearly didn't fully believe me. You're saying a killer is coming to your place to kill you? He eyed me suspiciously. I nodded repeatedly, then grabbed his hand. Let's run, Lai Shen. We'll only be safe once we get out of this building. If I could climb in through the window, so could the killer. But Lai Shen didn't move. He spoke in a low, grim voice. Young lady, do you think I can even walk? Only then did I notice his right hand held a cane and his right leg was wrapped in bandages. The injury looked serious. I'd been too nervous to notice. Lai Shen, what happened? I asked cautiously. I'm old and useless. My bones are brittle. Last month I fell and broke my leg. He sat down on the edge of the bed. Turning away from me, my heart sank completely. Our building had no elevator. With his injured leg, Lai Shen couldn't escape in time. But abandoning him would be heartless. I'd come to his place to save myself. Dragging him into this danger against his will, I looked at Lai Shen sitting on the bed. Morality and reason battled in my mind. In the end, I chose to stay with Lai Shen and wait for the police. Just as I made that decision, the neighbor leaned in and asked curiously, Young lady, what do you do for a living? You rarely go out. Don't you have a job? I felt helpless. Old people were always so nosy, even at a time like this. I had no choice but to answer honestly. I'm a full-time writer, so I don't need to go to work. I see, the neighbor said, giving me a meaningful look. He seemed to have more questions, but my mind was in chaos. I didn't want to chat about trivial matters. Do you have anything for self-defense? Like a kitchen knife? I'll get it ready in case I run into the killer. It might give me an edge. The neighbor seemed unhappy with my response, but he still pointed in one direction. If you want a knife, there's one in the kitchen. I'll go get it. He turned and walked to the kitchen. Sure enough, I saw a rusty kitchen knife in the sink. Without hesitation, I grabbed the kitchen knife, but to my utter shock, beneath it, in the sink's drain, a bloody human hand lay. I screamed instinctively. My hand slipped, and the knife clattered to the floor. Was it a prop? Did I see wrong? No, I stared hard at the sink. It was a human hand, a right hand. What was going on? Why was there a hand in Lai Shen's home? As my mind raced, a sinister voice came from behind. Let's deal with it right here. I turned around. Lai Shen had dropped his cane and stood there perfectly fine. Beside him stood the delivery rider. Both stared at me menacingly. See? He's still in shock. Lai Shen's sinister smile was eerily identical to the rider's. So the rider was Lai Shen's son. Before I could react, the rider lunged at me. I gasped, but luckily, hindered by the rotting head he carried. His movements were limited, and I dodged sideways. I shoved Lai Shen aside and bolted. As Lai Shen fell, he grabbed my hair desperately. You bitch! Don't run! Tears welled from the pain. In that moment, I steeled myself and yanked free from Lai Shen. After leaving his place, I rushed down the stairwell, sprinting down as fast as I could. My body was soaked through. I couldn't tell if it was rain or sweat or tears. I wiped my forehead. Lai Shen and I had no grudge against him. Why were they trying to harm me? Whose hand was that in his kitchen? Was it Brother Zhao's? My mind was a complete mess. I knew I couldn't figure it out, so I just had to escape this building, but I ran for so long. Without seeing the lobby, something was wrong. I turned on my phone's flashlight and shone it on the stairwell wall. There, on the landing, was a number. I was still on the 5th floor. Why, after running so long, was I still on the 5th floor? At that moment, my last shred of faith crumbled. Then, behind me came the riders and Lai Shen's voices. Don't run, be my girlfriend. You ungrateful bitch, who do you look down on? Isn't being our daughter-in-law good enough? So clueless, a young girl with no proper job. But such high pride, I ignored them, because I didn't even have time to fall apart. I could only keep running down, though I couldn't understand tonight. I knew that if I stopped, I'd be dead. The riders and Lai Shen's footsteps were unhurried, as if they were strolling casually. Yet with such casual steps, they kept getting closer. I dared not slacken. My leg muscles ached, blood filled my mouth, but I pushed on by sheer willpower. Suddenly, I stumbled and tumbled down the stairs. Clutching my leg, I tried several times, but couldn't stand. My muscles were probably torn. Lai Shen and the rider had caught up. They stood at the stairwell entrance about 2 meters away. I wanted to use my last strength to buy time. Don't touch me. I've called the police. They'll be here any minute. I shouted at them. To my surprise, they didn't. They laughed instead. If the police could come, they'd have been here long ago. They sneered at me. Like I was an idiot. I froze. Right. It had been about 20 minutes since I called the police. Why hadn't they arrived? And we'd been shouting in the stairwell, making plenty of noise. Why hadn't anyone in this building heard us? Combined with the endless stairs, a chill of dread rose in my heart. Were these two even human? What the hell was going on? I screamed, but they had no intention of explaining. The rider, holding the rotting head, lunged at me again. This time I couldn't dodge. I closed my eyes in despair. But just then, a figure rushed over and stood in front of me. Run! Run! Brother Zhao shouted. I was frozen in shock. Wasn't Brother Zhao dead? He'd been killed by the rider. He'd bled a lot. His head had fallen off. I'd seen it with my own eyes. Brother Zhao seemed to read my mind. He pinned down the struggling rider and kicked away the ghost coming to help. Then he shouted at me. No time to explain. Don't hesitate. Run now. This is the only chance. I then noticed Brother Zhao's entire right hand was gone. Was he just chopped but not dead? Everything tonight was too bizarre. I dared not think, but since he told me to run, I couldn't waste time. Strangely, my leg that had been hurting was now completely fine. I stood up and ran downstairs, hearing his screams behind. Tears soaked my face, but this time I met no strange floors. Soon I reached the lobby. A police car was parked outside. Police. The police had arrived. I rushed out ecstatically. The moment I passed through the door, I lost consciousness. I opened my eyes, lying in a hospital room, surrounded by my family and friends. There was also a gentle policewoman. My parents were closest to me. I cried tears of joy seeing them. Thank goodness, maybe I survived. Then I grabbed my mother's sleeve and asked, "Where's Brother Zhao? Is he okay? Is he in this hospital too?" "He's dead." My mother's eyes filled with tears. Dead. My hands dropped, and I murmured unconsciously, "Brother Zhao died saving me. I survived, but he didn't." "Xiaoyu, stop it," my father interrupted. "Actually, you're dead too." "I'm dead? What does that mean?" I was frantic. "Xiaoyu, do you really not remember?" Everyone looked at me with concern. My head suddenly ached. The pain wouldn't stop. Memories flooded back like a tide. I finally remembered everything. Lai Shen, her son, and Brother Zhao were all neighbors in my building. Lai Shen's son Young Kao had no education or skills. He had a criminal record from past fights, so he could only deliver food for a living. Brother Zhao was young and successful at a famous company with a high income. By coincidence, Yang Kao received my food delivery order. He fell in love at first sight and wanted me to be his girlfriend. Even after I rejected him, he kept harassing me since we lived in the same building. I was miserable. One day, Yang Kao was grabbing me at my door when Brother Zhao saw it. Being warm-hearted and righteous, Brother Zhao scolded him and chased him off. Yang Kao, already jealous of his income, held a grudge over this. At 35, Brother Zhao was laid off, and after a bitter divorce, he was blacklisted in his industry. Worse, his savings from years of work were wiped out by bad stock investments. Desperate, he became a security guard in the community. From then on, Yang Kao mocked him every time they met. Brother Zhao was already disheartened. After repeated provocations, he decided to end his life. He jumped I happened to be hanging clothes by the window. He leaped from the 7th floor. I grabbed his shirt, trying to pull him up, but I was too weak. I couldn't hold on long before losing strength. I watched him hit the ground, bloody and mangled. This left a huge shadow on me. I always felt responsible for his death and developed severe depression. But Lai Zhen and Yang Kao didn't let me go. Yang Kao hated being rejected, so he teamed up with her. They spread rumors that I was having an affair with Brother Zhao, that I was his mistress. They said if we weren't lovers, why would I be so sad after his death? They knew he couldn't defend himself. So they spread all kinds of rumors. I rarely went out due to my job, and many thought I was unemployed. So they believed Lai Zhen and Yang Kao. Even when I took out the trash, people called me a shameless mistress. My severe depression finally broke me. I made the same choice as Brother Zhao. I stared at everyone blankly. So you hired a priest to release my soul? Mom nodded tearfully. I fell silent. No wonder. In my dream, Brother Zhao was clearly killed by an axe. But he came back to life and desperately saved me. Maybe the priest. Brother Zhao's death was Lai Zhen and her son's crime, not my fault. If he's watching from above, he wouldn't blame me either. Unknowingly, 2 lines of tears rolled down my face. The next second, I felt much lighter. I looked down, my body was still on the bed. But my soul was floating in the air. My family and friends all looked up at me. I grew anxious. Because I hadn't asked my last question, I tried to speak but felt no voice. I looked at the policewoman beside me. Her face showed reluctance, but thankfully, she'd understood me. Don't worry, we've already charged Lai Lingxi with incitement. And arrested him. With Yang Kao, I promise you. They will surely face due punishment. May your soul find peace, and may you find happiness in your next life. His voice was gentle, like the operator in my dream. I smiled and waved to the crowd below, then closed my eyes until I felt my spirit slowly fading from this world.